Quite right. Good evening, Sally. MTN, in fact, has become the latest company, local company, to have implemented a vaccine mandate. A growing number of companies, as you say, are doing so amid the battle with the fourth wave of COVID-19 and the new Omicron variant. Standard Bank has also recently announced its new policy requiring all employees in South Africa who work from any of its premises to be vaccinated. Standard Bank CEO Lungisa Fuzile joins me now for more on the company's decision. Lungisa, thanks very much indeed for your time. So the task team that President Cyril Ramaphosa announced to decide on mandatory vaccines is still looking for a possible resolution on this, yet you've decided to go ahead with this at Standard Bank. Why?
Greetings, Devan, Sally, and fellow South Africans. There is no doubt, Devan, that to execute this mandatory vaccination for employees and for everyone who visits our offices and works in them. The only exclusion are people who come in and out to do something in a branch, for an example. We do need a lot of planning. Standard Bank, for instance, has decided that we will enforce this from the 4th of April in 2022. So what we're doing between now and that point is to work out in detail what is it that we need to have in place to make sure that there is no chaos come the 4th of April. Now, our own colleagues need to be able to look for, find, and get themselves vaccinated. And of course, we've got to set up a system digitally to make sure that people are able to report on their vaccination status. And we can verify this and then have a smooth running of our operations come April next year. So that's partly the reason why we've had to do that. Yep. And we are not the first, as you were indicating. A company like Discovery a while back took this step, correct step, might I say. And MTN, I read this morning, they also are taking this step. We have got to really attack this from all angles. We need, as companies, governments, to make sure that we keep the free movement of people happening. We keep businesses open. And for us to be able to do that and do it safely to a degree, people have got to be vaccinated.
Okay, if I can come in there, Lungisa, I mean, surely you would have tested the waters. Discovery did the same thing. They've given us a few figures talking about how many of their staff members felt ready to be vaccinated, heeded to that same policy line. You would have done those surveys. What's the feeling amongst your staff ahead of this policy implementation?
Devan, we've done those surveys. They are reliable only to a degree. As someone who plied the trade of statistics, I wouldn't quote the numbers at all. Sure, I wouldn't be dismissive of them, but the trend they are pointing towards is the following. The very large majority of colleagues have already taken the step of getting vaccinated. And by saying majority, over 50%. And those who have not yet been vaccinated are also contemplating getting vaccinated. So the numbers of people who object to being vaccinated for one reason or another, and we can talk about those, are very few. And of course, within the context of the constitutional framework that South Africa has, the legal framework that South Africa has, and of course, the directive relating to disaster management, specifically in relation to managing this pandemic, are clear insofar as they require that a company that decides to take the step of insisting on mandatory vaccination must provide for reasonable accommodation for people who may object on religious grounds, on health grounds, or any other valid grounds that people may object on the basis of.
If they go beyond that reasoning, Lungisa, do they stand a chance of being fined?
As a very ultimate resort, and I want to emphasize this would be a step that we would arrive at the very, very end. We are a caring business. We are a business that respects the Constitution, respects all the laws of the land, and respects people's rights to bodily integrity, and you name every other ground you can think of that people may raise as an objection or as their reason to object to being vaccinated. We respect all of that. Yeah. But if all of that is taken into account, and the grounds on the basis of which an individual are found not to fall within the four corners of the law, then that outcome could arise. But as I emphasize, as the very ultimate resort if it proves unavoidable.
Lungisa, I've got a couple of seconds. I'm going to throw this to you. I would ask any bank CEO this question. You've got vaccination mandates. We want to fight this virus as quick as possible for the sake of jobs, for the sake of the economy. How far do you think this is going to go to put some growth into this economy, very briefly?
No, it is going to help, Devan. I mean, there is no question that the contraction that we saw in GDP last year, which was massive, the closure permanently in some instances of businesses, the massive loss of jobs that has manifested in the last reading of the unemployment figures, which show that the unemployment has ticked up to about 34.9%, is in large measure a direct result of the lockdowns that are occasioned by this pandemic. So doing everything possible, everything reasonable to ensure that the economy stays open, the free movement of people remains unhindered, is the right thing to do. It is the responsible thing to do. It is what we must do.
All right. I'm going to have to leave it there because of time. Thanks very much indeed, Standard Bank CEO Lungisa Fuzile there.